Welcome back. In the last video, we talked about adding interactivity to our components and the basics of essentially state management. Now, this counter component is extremely simple and it actually only has one state variable. But your component can have essentially as many as they want, and you can keep things as basic or as complex as you want to do it. So, a common thing that you will see is the use of multiple use state statements. So let's just make another counter. We'll call this counter2. Okay, so let's go ahead here and I'm just going to put a second button in here. And we're going to need a new onClick second, and this will increase counter2 by 1 as well, and show you that this works just as well. And so we'll call this counter, and we'll call this counter2, and this will be counter2 here as well. onClick second, like so. And we'll just change some of this up a little bit, like so. Just so it looks a little different. So now you're going to see here that we have counter1 and we have counter2. And we can add 1 to the first one, just like we did in the last one. And we can add to the second one, just like this. In this case, both of these states are separate and you can edit them separately. Now, we can take this a slight step farther, and let's say we wanted to have a mega state, right? That it contains both of these. So let's just make an interface here and call this mega state. And we'll have counter and counter2. And we'll make a we'll create a new function here called const function. Let's just say function new mega state, and it returns a mega state, and then we'll just return a new object here, which is counter, and so it'll be 1, and counter2 will be 1 as well, just like we have here. And then we will just take these out of here like so. For the time being, we'll just comment these out. And then we'll say that we want a mega state, and we want to set a mega state. And we'll use useState here. And it'll return a new mega state, like so. And its type will be mega state. So now in this case, our state is going to be an entire object. Now, in order to update this object, what we're going to do is we're going to call the setMegaState function, which is our setter here. And we're going to pass in a new state. Now, the way that you would want to do this typically is, so this is concept of like not editing or not changing the actual state that you have, but creating a new state object. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use 2 curly braces here. This is going to allow us to create a new object in JavaScript. And then we're going to use the spread operator, which is these 3 dots, right? And then we're going to pass in our mega state. And what this does here is these outer curly braces will make a new object. This here is a spread operator. And essentially what it does is it will copy all the properties from our mega state object, which is this right here. It'll copy all the properties to this new object. Okay. And then we want to update our counter And we want it to be equal to megastate.counter +1, right? Like so. Okay, so this copies all our properties to our new objects, including counter1 and counter2. And essentially what we're doing here is we're just overwriting our counter property with a new value, right? Which is going to be it +1. And I'm just going to copy this value and paste it down in here. And we're going to put counter2 in here, and it's going to be the same thing here. And then we just need to fix this up a little bit. We just need to make this megastate.counter. And this one here should be megastate.counter2. Let's go ahead and save this. And I'm just going to reload this page and make sure everything's all good. And so we have counter1 and counter2. And I'm just going to add to counter1. And we can see that something is broken. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. Okay. So we were overwriting the counter parameter here, which is why it was not working correctly. We're going to make sure to say it's counter2. And we'll just reload this and we'll test it out real quick. And this looks like this works just fine. So remember in the last video that I had told you that there is a certain amount of lag time when it comes to updating a component from when you call the set function on that we have defined up here. Now, this is one way you can kind of get around that if you need everything to update at the same time. There are definitely use cases where it makes sense to use an object, and there's a lot of use cases where you can just use single values. In fact, I use single values a lot, almost all the time. But in some cases where things are really, really complex, especially with like forms and stuff like that, I will use objects. So use whichever one suits whatever purpose you need it for. And what I just noticed up here is this should be a number and this should be a number, like so. Okay. So that pretty much, I think, is going to wrap up when it comes to state. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video.